football foreshadowing society, I think, in how there's so many structural inequalities built into it, and we're getting to the point now where it's beginning to creep.
But whilst we look back over the transfer window this summer, Miguel, how would you define this year's transfer window?
Well, I mean, you can pick any number of figures. I'm basically touching on anything, a few things that Andy said there. But I suppose, being a journalist immersed in this.
Immersed or drowning?
Yeah, drowning, I think. And so Anthony, the price he's gone for is close to double Spain's entire net spend, La Liga, so the top division's entire net spend this summer, which is remarkable given Barcelona. Or else you can go even further than that. Nottingham Forest have what they've spent more than the entire Eredivisie. That gap might close a bit as Ajax now spend the Anthony money, but even that's just a fallout. And I know this podcast, obviously, we're specifically not supposed to discuss English football, but there's a knock on here in that, in a way, I don't think we've ever seen before. Not even with Serie A in the 90s when it had its, it's what most people would consider kind of the greatest era of any league ever. We've never seen one competition singularly shape everything else, and that's my one takeaway from this window. We've reached a next stage almost, or an inevitable peak where the entire European football pyramid is narrower than ever. There's England at the top. There's it's not about 2 or 3 leagues below that. It's about 4 or 5 super clubs. And then there's a straight drop. And even, we'll get into this in the show later on, but even from talking to agents about where they're advising players of a certain level to go, it's no longer to leagues outside the major leagues. I think it's, there's so much more going on, I suppose, than where players are moving.
Yeah, Andy, I suppose as well, there's a consequence, as Miguel's alluding to, a consequence of teams or agents around the world knowing, for example, that Manchester United, they've got a problem and they've got loads of money.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think, a short-term disadvantage for Premier League clubs, and one that's existed for a while, in that what bargaining position do you have if you can't say there's a limit to what we can pay? And they can't reasonably say there's a limit to what you can play. So you could list the transfers, whether it be, as Miguel was saying, whether it's Anthony, whether it's Alexander Isak, whether it's Chelsea buying Fofana from Leicester.
And exactly that. I was talking to someone involved in the Anthony deal on Saturday morning, and they were saying that at that point, and throughout Ajax's stance, basically, we went into this summer window prepared to let the usual business model, prepared to let 2 or 3 players go and then rebuild the team. There's not too much upheaval. We accept where we are in the natural order of things at the moment, and we can rebuild from there. So that's why they could basically set such a high price for Anthony. And then United actually go beyond that, because I don't think it was really in their plan to get to lose him this summer. Now, obviously, Anthony's own behaviour changed things, but it got to a point, even though they were adamant they weren't going to sell, they were basically persuaded by the simple sentence, that's a lot of money to leave on the table.
And we've been here before with the Premier League, haven't we? If you think of when Monaco won the title in 2017 and got so far in the Champions League as well, that brilliant Monaco team with Falcao, Bernardo Silva, Mbappe, etc. Their plan at the start of that season was to say, at the start of that summer, I should say, was to lose 2 players. Was to sell Bernardo Silva and was to sell Timur Bakayoko. And they'd sorted that out before the season had ended. And then this offer comes in for Benjamin Mendy, which is a world record fee for a fullback. How do you turn down 52 million for a left back from Manchester City? And then you open the floodgates, because then how do you say no to the rest of the players? You've sold the vision to the rest of those players. And obviously, from a financial standpoint, this is incredibly beneficial to these clubs. For a long time, a lot of clubs in France, particularly, also Portugal, maybe we're getting there in Spain eventually, and certainly in Germany, are saying, right, okay, maybe we could take the view that these Premier League clubs are playing a different sport. We could also take the view that we will accept their inflated bids for our players take that money, and with our strategy, we're going to rebuild, and we're going to do well from here. And we've seen clubs do that before, but I think this is the issue that Ajax were always struggling to keep a lid on with Antony. You know, they'd already sold like 5-6 first teamers this summer, and then when you let a player go, whatever the fee, whatever the financial benefit, whatever the inability to refuse a deal that good, all of a sudden, other players who've said, oh, well, I will stay for this season, they're going to want to go as well. Because that's what happened with Mbappe, for example. He went into summer 2017 intending originally to stay with Monaco. And then, after they've said they'll sell 2 players, and all of a sudden it's 4 first teamers,
well, so you're wasting a year career, basically.
Exactly. That is the feeling.
Of course, it's not just all about Antony. Paquetá as well. Decent signing, you would have thought. He's one of the headlines from over there, playing over here now.
And it's remarkable to me how you get, that if anything shows the incredible power of the Premier League, it's that a West Ham can go and sign someone who is a mainstay of the Brazil 11.
We'll get into this, but even the fact that now Chelsea are close to double the size of AC Milan. AC Milan very much in italics there. I mean, this is one of Europe's most storied clubs, and we'll get into this in the discussion of what the Champions League is now. But I just find that such a. I mean, we were talking about this off air, but basically, football foreshadowing society. I think in how there's so many structural inequalities built into it, and we're getting to the point now where it's beginning to creak.